Hey, hi guys. Welcome to episode 4 of Metagaming Topics and Discussion. This episode we'll be discussing tournament preparation. Okay, you're accustomed of doing pretty good in your locals, and you're thinking, well, hey, maybe I can do pretty well in some other tournament environments. Maybe I want to travel abroad and play a next bigger tournament. And you're sick and tired of playing at, not to say it's like the litty kiddie pool, but maybe you want to say, well, okay, I want to swim with the big boys. I want to see what's all about. I want to invest my time and my money into playing this game a little more often, playing it a little more competitively. So I want to follow closer to what the meta plays or play against it and play my deck and see how it does, how well it does against people from around the world. And you're not going to be the first person to think like that. Of course, everybody's going to be like, well, hey, I want to play a tournament also. So to me, tournament preparation is pretty key and pretty important. And there's like a few things or a few tips that I picked up when in my time of, well, traveling. It's not over, of course. There's often times where I kind of, if I get the time or if I get the money, I travel to a tournament somewhere, maybe a regional, a national, or travel to a PTQ or Grand Prix trial or something like that, and I get to see how I do. Oftentimes I don't put up good numbers, but then, hey, if you don't try, you don't know. For me, I'll probably subcategorize these things. So, because you can just have a general aspect of them, but I like planning, playtesting, eating well, sleeping well. Well, eating well, sleeping well is the same basic category, and traveling with people. You wouldn't think that would be in a category by itself, but these are things that you need to. I'll explain to you, and then you can get a better understanding of them. With planning, going half-assed into a tournament is one of the most foolhardy things that anybody can ever do, where it's basically you just go in thinking, well, okay, my deck is pretty good at just about everything. I don't even need to take in consideration of what decks can be played at the moment or none of that type of stuff. That's a very wrong mindset to go in. You oftentimes need to scout. You need to figure out what's being played, how good numbers of a certain type of deck type or archetype that is being put up, and what you can do to counteract it, and learning how to sideboard against it, or learning how to do your turn 1 or your turn 2 against it, what you need to set, what you need to be activating in response to, and all those type of things are pretty important to when you're playing in a type of environment. When you're playing in a competitive environment, that is pretty key. Playtesting with a friend or at your local game store, be it, well, for our local environment anyway, Magic United, Gamers of the West, or if you're at a different location, Speller House, Gamers Paradise, or anything like that. Playtesting at your local store with a friend before you go to a regional qualifier or a tournament is pretty good place that you can do it. You can also invite your friends over at your place and you can playtest there. Or you can go to gaming sites like MTG Online, DevPro, Yugioh, and being able to playtest there like on some online source. So then you know how the decks that you're playing against work, because there's oftentimes there's going to be the one guy or like the group of people that's either you're going to be playing against online that's going to be playing this ridiculously strong deck. I wouldn't say overpowered. It's not really a deck that is overpowered. There's just decks that are really consistent, and because they're consistent, they're hard to deal with. But when you play test against those type of decks and you kind of have an understanding and know, well, okay, I can't really beat this deck game 1, then I'll need to see how I can fit my sideboard into game 2. And that it falls on a little bit on the planning, but then playtesting shows you and gives you the insight that you need to understand what the deck works, how the deck works, and then you can understand or pilot or figure out maybe, hey, maybe I want to play that deck myself. Eating well or sleeping well is basically, as I stated, knowing that, okay, well, I can't quite keep on eating junk food before the tournament because my concentration and my sleeping cycle is going to be totally screwed up, because a sugar rush lasts for a pretty long time, but then the crash lasts a lot longer. And when you don't when you're hopped up on sugar or you're hopped up on greasy and fat foods, it screws up with your body's natural immune system. So then if you don't eat properly before the tournaments happen, you can catch a cold, which can impede you from being able to focus properly at a tournament, and you can end up losing a whole lot of games because of it. And concentration is a really important thing in any aspect of anything in everyday life, and not so much so as a tournament. So that's pretty important to me. And having a uh, sleeping schedule that you can always hold yourself to helps. Traveling as a group, depending on where you're going, which region you're going. Say, for example, you're still within the country, but you're traveling to a different country entirely. Driving with a carpool is cheaper. Or if you're booking the same flight, it probably might not be the same thing as a carpool, but if you're booking the same hotel, both of you can probably book a room because it's cheaper to book a room together than it is to do it separately. And if you're going to maybe a 9-round tournament, there's oftentimes going to be depending on which hour that it's starting or whatever. So, for example, it's starting around 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. already, and it's a 9-hour tournament, a 9-round tournament. You'll often get a day 2. Or it's a 10-round tournament, a 12-round tournament is often gonna have a day 2. So then, if you book a hotel together and all of you have like twin beds or whatever, it's cheaper on you. You also get companionship. You're not alone. So then, the time that you travel to the place, and oftentimes these trips take up to 2.5 hours or something like that, and it's a lot easier on you in a psychological standpoint. So then you just enjoy your overall trip a little more. But if you can't stand the rest, then hey, you can't really do too much about that. It's just cheaper anyway, and the quicker you get this over and the quicker you finish your tournament, the better. And it also falls into the consideration that, hey, you can play test with this person that you either despise, or you find that, hey, this is my brother from another mother, and then you also, it just ties into being able to play test. It was a pretty long video this week, but thanks for sticking around. If you guys want to add anything to this discussion, or you have any other topics that you want to discuss, you can leave in the comment section below. And as always, be awesome, stay awesome, comment, like, share, subscribe.